November 12, 1942. A cool afternoon in Richmond, California. The sun was pale, but the shipyard was alive with noise and energy. Hundreds of workers, engineers, and naval officers stood near the docks, their eyes fixed on one spot: a massive steel ship resting in the water. It was SS Robert E. Peary, 441 feet long, weighing millions of pounds, and it had been built in only 4 days. For a moment, the crowd was silent. Then cheers broke out, echoing across the bay. This wasn't just the launch of a ship, it was the birth of a revolution. For centuries, shipbuilding had been slow, detailed work. Every rivet, every beam, every plate was put in by hand. It could take 6 months, even a year, to finish one cargo ship. But this one, built in less than a week, changed everything. The man behind it wasn't even a shipbuilder. His name was Henry J. Kaiser, a construction contractor who had built dams, highways, and bridges, but never a ship. Yet, when the U.S. entered World War II, he made a promise. If America needs ships, I'll build them, faster than anyone believes possible. At that time, the world was in crisis. German submarines, deadly U-boats, were sinking Allied ships one after another. Britain was running out of food, weapons, and oil. Every ship lost meant lives lost. The Allies didn't need perfect ships, they needed many ships, and fast. But America's traditional shipyards couldn't keep up. They worked by old methods, slow, careful, and beautiful, but far too slow for war. That's when Kaiser came in, bringing a new idea. He looked at how Ford built cars, quickly, in parts, on assembly lines, and he thought, why not build ships the same way? Experts laughed at him. Shipbuilding, they said, was an art, not something you could rush. But Kaiser wasn't trying to make art. He was trying to save the world's supply lines. He changed everything. Instead of using rivets, the traditional way to connect steel plates, he used electric welding. It was faster, cheaper, and needed fewer skilled workers. Admiral Emory Land, head of the U.S. Maritime Commission, didn't like it. "Welding is dangerous," he warned. "Ships could break apart at sea." But time was running out. The U-boats were winning. So, reluctantly, he gave Kaiser permission to try. In early 1941, Kaiser began building his first shipyard in Richmond. It didn't look like a shipyard. It looked like a giant car factory. Huge cranes towered above open fields of steel. Sections of ships were built separately. The bow in one area, the stern in another, the deck somewhere else, then all welded together like giant puzzle pieces. Most of his workers had never built a ship before. They were teachers, farmers, clerks, even housewives. Kaiser trained them in just 2 weeks. He believed anyone could learn, if the system was right, and it worked. The first Liberty ship took 197 days. The next took 169, then 128, then 97. By 1942, Richmond's yards were launching ships every 70 days, faster than any yard in the world. Kaiser's philosophy was simple: don't wait. Do everything at once. Engines were built while hulls were being welded. Cabins were assembled while decks were still being shaped. It was called prefabrication, and it changed shipbuilding forever. The ships weren't perfect. They weren't elegant. But they floated, they carried cargo, and they reached their destination. And that was all that mattered. Even Admiral Howard Vickery, once one of Kaiser's critics, later admitted, his ships weren't pretty, but they won the war. Soon, Kaiser's shipyards began to compete with each other. Richmond versus Portland. Newspapers reported their progress like sports scores. In September 1942, the Joseph N. Teal set a record, built in 10 days. Workers began to believe there was no limit. That belief, that anything was possible, would soon lead to the most astonishing record yet: the 4-day ship that stunned the world and changed history forever. November 8, 1942. It was just after midnight when the challenge began. At Kaiser's Richmond Shipyard No. 2, floodlights turned night into day. Sparks flew through the air as welders, mechanics, and crane operators took their positions. More than 1,000 workers stood ready, men and women, young and old, many of them new to shipbuilding. Their goal sounded impossible: build an entire Liberty ship in less than 5 days. The ship was to be called SS Robert E. Peary, named after the Arctic explorer. Vice Admiral Emory Land had joked that Kaiser's speed records were still slower than real mass production. Clay Bedford, Kaiser's chief engineer, took that as a challenge. He promised to prove that a complete working ship could be built faster than anyone imagined. Everything had been prepared. Every section, the bow, stern, engine room, cargo holds, deck houses, was already built and waiting. The workers didn't have to create the parts. They only had to assemble them. It was like putting together a giant steel puzzle. By the 4th day, the hull was complete. The engine, weighing 140 tons, was lowered into place. Deck houses were welded on top, the steering gear installed, and the propeller fitted. At exactly 3:30 p.m. on November 12, 1942, just 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes after the first steel was laid, SS Robert E. Peary slid down the rails and into San Francisco Bay. The crowd exploded in cheers. Officials, reporters, and naval officers couldn't believe their eyes. Some had come expecting failure, a half-finished ship, or a fake demonstration. Instead, they saw a complete working vessel that needed only minor adjustments before sailing. Vice Admiral Land, once Kaiser's biggest skeptic, said simply, "6 months ago, I would have said this was impossible. Henry Kaiser has made traditional shipbuilding obsolete. From that moment, the world of shipbuilding would never be the same." Other shipyards across America were shocked. Old masters who had spent decades perfecting their craft now watched untrained workers, welders and housewives, build ships faster and cheaper than they ever could. Within months, nearly every U.S. shipyard adopted Kaiser's methods. By early 1943, the average construction time for a Liberty ship had dropped from 230 days to just 42. America was now launching 3 ships every single day, more than German submarines could sink. But Kaiser's revolution wasn't just about machines and methods. It was about people. When the war began, most heavy industries refused to hire women or minorities. Kaiser changed that. He opened his shipyards to everyone willing to work: women, African Americans, Latinos, people from every background. By 1944, over 40,000 women worked in Kaiser's yards, many as welders and crane operators. Posters of Rosie the Riveter became national symbols of strength and pride. In Richmond alone, 27% of the workforce were women, an unheard-of number at that time. Black workers also found opportunity and respect. In an era of deep segregation, Kaiser promoted African Americans into skilled and supervisory positions. In 1944, the 3 Kaiser yards in the Pacific Northwest employed more than 30,000 black workers, many in roles that traditional shipyards never would have allowed. For many, it was more than a job. It was a revolution in equality. It proved that skill and intelligence had nothing to do with gender or race, only with opportunity. By Christmas 1943, Kaiser's shipyards had become symbols of American determination. Even on Christmas Day, production continued, but Kaiser made sure no one felt forgotten. He provided free Christmas dinners in the shipyard cafeterias, complete with turkey, ham, and music. He walked among the workers, shaking hands, thanking them personally. That sense of community kept morale high and productivity even higher. His workers didn't just build ships, they built hope. By mid-1944, Kaiser's 7 shipyards had produced more than 800 Liberty ships. Across the country, 18 shipyards using his methods had built 2,400 vessels. The U.S. was now producing more tonnage every month than Germany and Japan combined. A British naval observer wrote in amazement, "Kaiser alone produces more ships monthly than the entire British shipbuilding industry. His ships are not elegant, but they float, they carry cargo, and there are thousands of them. Adequate multiplied by thousands defeats perfection multiplied by dozens." It was true. The Liberty ships weren't fancy. They were simple, tough, and replaceable. And that's exactly why they won the war. When the war finally ended in 1945, the shipyards fell silent. Production stopped, workers went home, and thousands of buildings stood empty. Many believed the story of the Liberty ships had ended there. But the ideas lived on. The prefabrication, modular construction, and welding techniques that Kaiser pioneered spread across the world. When Japan and South Korea began rebuilding their industries in the 1950s and 1960s, they studied Kaiser's methods. Modern shipyards in Ulsan, South Korea, and Nagasaki, Japan, still use his principles today. In fact, every large ship built in the modern world, from oil tankers to cruise liners, follows the same system Kaiser invented in Richmond. The numbers tell the story best. Between 1941 and 1945, American shipyards built 2,710 Liberty ships, an average of 1.8 ships per day. Kaiser's 7 yards alone produced 1,490 ships, nearly one-third of the total. Average labor time dropped from 1.1 million hours per ship to just 486,000 by 1943. In the best yards, a ship could be completed in 350,000 hours, 1/10 of the original time. Each Liberty ship could carry 10,800 tons of cargo, enough for 2,800 jeeps, 440 tanks, or 230 million rounds of ammunition. They were powered by simple, reliable steam engines that kept them moving at 11 knots. Not fast, but steady. Many people feared these quick-built ships wouldn't last, but they did. Out of 2,710 Liberty ships, only 200 were lost to enemy attacks, about 7%. A few suffered cracks and structural failures, but those problems were quickly fixed. Most Liberty ships survived the war, and hundreds continued sailing for decades. Even today, more than 80 years later, a few still exist. The SS John W. Brown in Baltimore and the SS Jeremiah O'Brien in San Francisco remain fully functional museum ships. The Jeremiah O'Brien even sailed back to Normandy in 1994, 50 years after D-Day, still running on its original engine. In the end, Henry J. Kaiser did far more than build ships. He changed how the world builds everything: ships, cars, airplanes, and even skyscrapers. He proved that with imagination, teamwork, and courage, ordinary people could do extraordinary things. A historian once wrote, "Kaiser entered shipbuilding as an outsider, but he left it having changed the industry forever. In just 3 years, he built more ships than America had in the previous 100, and every modern shipyard still carries his signature, in every welded seam, every modular section, every launch." The story of the Liberty ships is not just about steel and engines. It's about people, men and women who believed that impossible was just another challenge waiting to be overcome.